And welcome back to another edition of the SIG podcast. Trust the process in studio. We love doing it here. It's a lot of fun. We love being in person. It's a different dynamic for us and for you as well. We hope you enjoy it, but we're going to enjoy this one. It's going to be a fun show. It's Monday, which means we're going to talk Habs, mostly Habs prospects, Habs young guns. And we're going to start off, obviously, with Bryce Pickford. How could you not? Another hat trick, 5-point performance for him. He's now leading the WHL in goals. What a season he's having, but will it translate to the NHL? We're going to get to that. A little later on, we're going to talk about Zachary Bolduc. We've talked about him on the show, especially when the trade went down and how excited we are about his potential. But he's not quite living up to the hype so far. Should we be worried? Is he going to Laval? We're going to discuss all of that. A little later on, of course, we're going to get to one unsung prospect, if you will. I'm not going to give you his name just yet. You'll have to tune in to find out. And we're going to finish off, of course, with a mailbag question from one of you watching. It's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned. It all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
That's right, producer Shayne here, joined as always by my counterpart, Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how you doing today?
I love it. I'm in studio.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Except the ice outside, though.
Yeah. I fell. I almost broke my wrist, but it's okay. It's that time of the year.
Yeah, it was a slip and slide in Montreal today. I almost fell. I was skating out there in my boots. It was uncomfortable, and I hope everybody out there is safe. Okay, the roads are fine, but you know what? You can hurt yourself by slipping. Please be careful. But Snake, we're going to talk about more positive things here, and one of those plays for the Medicine Hat Tigers. And yeah, I mean, he's not giving us much of a choice. We've talked about him a lot on this show, but rightfully so. Bryce Pickford is having a season for the ages. Like, this is just absurd. Another hat trick, 5-point performance, 32 goals this season as a defenseman. He's leading the WHL in goals. He's 4th in points with 60.
And it's only January.
It's only January. What the hell, man?
Yeah, it's kind of extraterrestrial what he's doing.
Unreal.
And it's very uncommon that a defenseman with a lot of points will have more goals than assists.
True. Yep.
We don't see this very often, in whether it be in junior hockey or even less in the NHL. But before we move on, talking about Pickford's season and whatever NHL future he has, you probably remember last year that he was one of my sleepers.
Correct. Yep.
And I remember saying before the draft, this is a guy who was passed on the year before. And the reason was when he was playing in Seattle, it was because of the depth chart. Mm-hmm. And very often you play on a team as a 17-year-old, you don't get as much ice time, and scouts ignore you or don't notice you as much. They don't file as many reports. And the year after, at age 18, you start playing a little bit more, and then, oh, okay, this guy's good.
Yeah.
And that's what happened last year. I saw him live at the Memorial Cup, and I thought he was impressive, and I was surprised he hadn't been drafted the year before. He could, even in the 5th, 6th round. Why don't you take a flyer on a guy like this? And the Habs did in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's rare that in the early rounds that teams are going to draft a guy in his 2nd year of eligibility, because most scouts have moved on to the next crop of players. But you can't ignore these 18-year-olds. These 18-year-old players, sometimes you never know. There are reasons why they were not drafted. Mm-hmm. So that being said, let's analyze Pickford's season, the way I see it, watched a lot of his games, of his shifts, and what does the future hold for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are thinking.
And I'm sure you have your opinion. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to go first.
You know, he's being talked a lot about because obviously he's a goal scoring machine, right? He's putting up points, playing really well. So a lot of people are saying, "My God, is this a franchise caliber defenseman? Like, what's his upside?" Because it's kind of hard to tell, right? This was a player that was passed on in this first draft year, and now all of a sudden he's the best defenseman, one of the best players in the entire WHL. It's kind of hard to kind of picture or predict what he's going to be at the NHL level. So, I can't really, I'm in the same boat. I can't really project him very well.
It's hard.
But I know you have kind of
a
vision here.
Well, what happened last year is that one thing is sure. His season is not a fluke.
No.
Because it started out towards the end of the season and Medicine Hat. And in the playoffs, I think he had 13 goals in the playoffs.
Unstoppable.
He was a scoring machine.
Yeah.
So the guy's a scoring machine. Now you have to watch him play to see, okay, what kind of scoring machine is he? How does he score his goals? How does it translate to the NHL? And here's my assessment based on what I thought last year and what I've seen this year. Because don't forget, he's 19 years old. It's normal for a 19-year-old player to dominate in junior hockey if he's going to have an NHL career. But, there's dominance and dominance. This is record-breaking.
Another level, yeah.
Yeah, at another level. They're video game stats.
Exactly.
Basically. Now, Pikford last year, when I had him as a sleeper, my prediction was, at the time, has a chance to play. He was in that category. Has a chance to play. What does it mean? It means that I would take a flyer on him, perhaps in the 3rd round or 4th round, and you send him to the American Hockey League, and you're hoping that he's going to develop because he's on the right track. He's on an upward trajectory, which is very important with young players. You don't want a player who's going to be better at 16 than at 17.
Plateau.
You always got, exactly. You always want a player who's going to improve every year, and that's the case with Pikford. So. That was my projection last year. Habs take him. He has this, this extraterrestrial season.
Yeah.
So when you watch him play, how does he score his goals? Well, he has one elite quality. And if you're going to make the NHL, you need at least one elite.
An X factor.
An X factor. His shot. His slap shot. His wrist shot is not only powerful,
pinpoint.
It's precise because you need this. Goalies, they're Michelin man now. They're good. Defensemen block shots, so you can't just survive on a slap shot. Okay, for those who followed the Habs maybe 20 years ago, Sheldon Surrey had a career with a slap shot. I don't think you can have a career with a slap shot anymore. You have to be precise. So that basically either you find a hole, or at least you're precise enough that someone in the front of the net can tip it in or take the rebound. Now, so in terms of shots, I think Bryce Pickford is NHL caliber, if not elite.
Yeah.
Now let's
the rest is important.
Exactly. Let's go back to Earth now. Pikford is going to need time in the AHL. Why? Because one thing that Pikford doesn't have, that a lot of defensemen who score a lot of points have, is that he's not a puck mover, per se. Okay? He's not a Cale Makar. He's not a Quinn Hughes. He's not a Hudson. He's not a puck mover. This is a guy who does his shtick in the offensive zone. You put him in the offensive zone, you give him the puck, he's going to take it's in, or he's going to take a very good shot at the net. Is that enough to make the NHL? Now, defensively, I think he works hard, so that's okay. That's something I like. But his positioning is pretty weak. I would say right now it's junior caliber. It's not even AHL caliber. So this is something that is going to have to work on in the American Hockey League next year.
Correct.
Is defensive positioning. Now, is he going to be a puck mover at the higher level? If he's not a puck mover at junior level, he's not going to be a puck mover at the higher level.
No.
So what do you do with him? Because he has an elite quality that, and I always say that, with a group of defensemen, you have to have a mix of everything. A puck mover, a big guy, a more defensive guy, someone who's kind of in between. Now, I see Pikford right now. If I had to make a projection, I would see him maybe, I think his ceiling is number 5 defenseman,
Okay.
second power play unit. For a third round pick.
That's
that,
great value.
That would be, it's a value pick. Now, the chances of attaining this, I think we're going to have to wait to see how he progresses at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Just like he did in the last few years, he progressed. Now, let's not panic if he struggles in Laval in November. Okay, it's a 20-year-old defenseman. I always say that a star forward has to either be in the NHL at age 20 or be very close to the NHL, because, he'll have like 20 points in 17 games. They'll call him up, and that's it.
Exactly.
We've seen this in the past with many NHL stars who went through the HL. Defensemen, it's another story. You have to be more patient. They get a 3-year entry-level contract, and sometimes you have to go through the whole contract before you know what you have. Mm-hmm. Look at Adam Engstrom right now. He's playing well in Laval.
Yeah.
They called him up. I think he did a good job. They send him back. They call him up. So, let's not expect Pikford to play 20 minutes a game with the Habs next year, especially the Habs right now. They're not the Habs of 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, they can be patient with these young guys. And so not best case scenario, but the scenario fans should hope for is that he gets to Laval, and next year he learns how to play better in his own zone. Meanwhile, perhaps contributing on the second power play unit. He scores a few goals. That's great.
Yeah.
Second year in Laval, I would like to see a radical improvement in his defensive game, and also getting a little bit more ice time in offensive situations, and basically show what he's showing now.
Yeah.
And the third year, hopefully, be on a third pairing in Montreal. He'd be 22, and at some point there's going to be turnover. I mean,
of course,
Habs are not going to have the same 6 defensemen that they have right now, and otherwise he becomes great trade bait.
Yeah,
let's not forget. The Habs now are in a situation where they're going to be buyers, and when you want to buy something, you're going to give usually a first-round pick, second-round pick, and a prospect or prospects. Look at what Minnesota had to give up for Quinn Hughes. So at some point, what you're trying to do is you're not going to trade Ron Bacher, unless you get an offer that you can't refuse. You're not going to trade Michael Hage. So, guys like Engstrom, Pikford, LG Mooney, they're prospects that could be of interest for other teams. So that could be it. But bearing a trade, I see him in Laval, and hopefully he does great. Because I like the player. I like the player a lot.
That's it.
I like what he brings to the table. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but for who he is, I like it. And you know me, Shayne. I mean, I'm always happy if I have a sleeper that does well.
Yeah,
because they're very hard to find.
And
I don't find a sleeper every year. I mean, I find a sleeper every 6 years.
Exactly. Your 3 sleepers from the last draft are doing all right. If I do say so.
So far, so good.
Cooper Simpson, Zarowski,
and Pikford.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's a one specialty to have as a hockey player, it's goal scoring, right? You can make an entire career out of just being a goal scorer, because it is the most important thing to do. Now, I've been asked quite often, and I know you have as well, what kind of player would you compare Pikford to, right? What's his NHL comparable? This is an exercise that's done a lot with prospects, and usually it's pretty futile, but hey, people want to know.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, because
is there even
most
a comparable?
Fans don't have time to watch the player.
Yeah,
they see the stats, they see the highlights, but they're wondering what kind of player he is. And you know me, this is probably my weakness. Giving an NHL comp is really not my forte. But in Pickford's case, it's even harder.
There's no one.
I don't know. Do you have
Like,
a name?
I mean, right, if we're thinking off the top of the head here, the leading goal scorer for defensemen in the NHL is Jacob Chychrun. He's got a heck of a shot.
Yeah.
Right? He's a goal-scoring defenseman. Could that be sort of in the realm of like a dollar store Jacob Chychrun in a sense? Not to be mean to Pickford here, but I mean Jacob Chychrun's among the elite in the NHL, right?
Yeah. That's a hefty comparison because we're talking about one of the best, one of the top, 20, 25 defensemen in the league. But very often when people want a comparison, it's more like the style of play.
Yeah.
So probably the offensive aspect in the offensive zone, Chychrun is good. I think the rest of Chychrun's game is more mature. It's more NHL caliber than it is for Pikford right now. But I would say maybe the offensive game. You mentioned a former player, Mike Green. Mike Green was scoring a lot of goals for a few seasons in Washington, but Mike Green, I would say was more of a puck mover than Pikford is. But
he was a true number one.
But he had defensive weaknesses also that I think coaches at the time probably would have wanted to make him a forward because Green was really a liability on defense. I'm not saying Pickford's a liability right now. I'm just saying that his positioning is quite weak. But he gets away with it in the WHL. Look, it's hard to find a comparable with this guy. Let's just... it's a cliche, but let's let him be Bryce Pickford.
And appreciate the magic. And this is where we turn over to you, okay? In the comments section, you can let us know if you have a comparable for Bryce Pickford. Who do you think he plays like? What do you think his ceiling could be in the NHL? Let us know in the comments section. Moving along now to maybe not as positive of a topic, right? We have to talk about Zachary Bolduc because it's been rough. It hasn't quite worked out recently. Started off the season on a tear. Like he was fantastic, right? But it's 1 point in his last 11 games. He's played with Suzuki and Caulfield. No chemistry there. Moved down to align with Danault and Gallagher. And on paper, that line makes a ton of sense, right? You pair up Gallagher with Danault. Those two had chemistry in the past, right? And Danault and Bolduc could be, Danault could be a mentor for Bzuk, if you will, a fellow Québécois. But again, that line hasn't worked out. They haven't produced much. This is where, there's debate within the fan base about Bolduc, whether you send him to Laval, whether you try to move him on another line, right? If you recall back to his time with the Quebec Remparts and with the St. Louis Blues, where he had a ton of success.
Springfield.
Yes, where he worked quite well. Yeah. Can you identify any sort of pattern or indicator that would say, okay, this is the kind of role, the position that he needs to be in to have success?
Yeah, that's interesting because, again, a little preamble. He was a guy that I really liked last year.
Yeah.
And when they made the trade, I thought it was an absolute steal.
Yep.
So obviously I'm rooting for him again to succeed. He started off on a tear, and I was like, pumping my chest, with this.
Rightfully so.
And now, okay. I think what's going to happen, just to go back, in junior hockey, when he started out, it was about the same thing. He didn't take off right away, but then the last couple of seasons in Quebec, even his draft year, he was good. But the last couple of seasons in Quebec, 50-goal scorer, he was really dominant. Then he got to Springfield in the American Hockey League, started off slowly at age 20. And then at some point, he really, really improved. And then with the Blues, they called him up, started off slowly.
Yeah.
And then the second half of last year, this guy was like second line material in my book.
He was on the second line.
He was a
he was playing with like Shayne
guy, and I was thinking, okay, this guy has arrived. He's going to be a 25-goal scorer. He's going to be, with grit,
exactly,
and size. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a keeper for the Blues. And then Blues, they have a hole on defense. And usually what happens, you're going to trade from a position of force in order to, fulfill a need. And they decided that they were a good match with the Habs because the Habs have a lot of decent young defensemen.
Yeah.
And the Blues had a lot of decent forwards. Jimmy Snuggerud was arriving.
Jake Neighbors.
Jake Neighbors
Yeah.
also was there, and he was doing well. And with the Kairos and everything.
Mhm.
So they're thinking, okay, well, Bolduc, Mailloux, same age, forward defenseman makes sense. And so what I think right now, okay, they haven't found the perfect match for Bolduc. And because it doesn't work.
No.
It didn't work. And I think right now, I'm not saying it's a lost season, but I think it's a transition season for him. He was traded. It's a new team. And if you look at Bolduc's career pattern, it always takes him a little bit of time to get acquainted to a new situation, a new team. I'm hoping that it's just like, that's the case, and that next year he'll perform to the level that he was at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I'm a patient guy in the sense that I'm not going to wait 5 years for a player, especially not a forward.
But you trust the process.
I do trust the process, and the process right now with Bolduc, he's disappointing. I thought he was going to be better. Now, what do you do with him? I don't think fourth line minutes are good for him.
No.
But the Habs also need to win, and the guy is not really performing. So there's a dilemma here. You want to develop the player, but at the same time, the Habs want to make the playoffs. They want to do well in the playoffs. So I don't know. Give him some third line minutes. Try some other pairings. Look, some guys are going to come back from injury.
That's where I was going here. Because
New Hook,
the job is not locked. Like, there's guys that are going to be moved out of the lineup, sent down to Laval, right? The first name that we think of is like, okay, Owen Beck started the year in Laval, but Owen Beck is playing better than Bzuk right now. Like, can you justify sending him down over Bzuk, who is waiver exempt? Like, he can go down to Laval. Yeah. So that's why, like, there needs to be a little more urgency. But then again, I am so far away from giving up on this player. I think the potential is too enticing. The package of physicality, speeds, goal scoring, he's going to be a big player for the Habs for a long time. I'm convinced of that. It's just right now, there's no chemistry with anyone.
That's it.
And he just hasn't found his footing. I don't think Martin St. Louis quite knows how to use him yet. But that's for those two to figure out with time, if they trust the process. This topic is perfect for this show because really, I mean, there's a lot of people, and this bothers me a little bit, that are giving up on him already. They're saying, oh, this guy brings nothing to the lineup. He's useless. We traded for nothing. No. So far away from that. He's 22 years old. This is his second full year in the NHL, like a brand new team, his hometown team, the biggest market in the world. Okay, like this, there's bound to be an adaptation period. It's now, it's hurting, but there needs to be a way to find a solution. And,
well, let's just say
to us, the solution is
next year is going to be crucial. However,
yeah, of course,
he's going to be 23. He's a forward. Next year is going to be crucial. And at some point, the Habs, yes, they are still building the team, but they are not at the bottom of the standings where basically they can just wait and wait and wait.
That's it.
The Sharks and the Hawks were doing the last few years. The Habs have passed that stage, so they need guys who can play. But at the same time, new team, first season, and he was good at the beginning of the year.
Fantastic.
Now what is it? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it a lack of work ethic? Is it a lack of chemistry with other Habs? Let's see when the injured players come back. Maybe he'll click with someone. He was clicking well in St. Louis last year with his line mates. We'll see.
Yeah. But are you for or against a potential move to Laval temporarily?
Look, I in October I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
But he's still exempt.
Exactly.
Waivers exempt. It's his last year of being waivers exempt. Could be a wake-up call. It's been done in the past. Why not? Some teams have done it.
Caulfield was sent down at one point. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about here.
That's true. Not for long.
No, but
he was sent
again,
down.
sometimes you kind of need that. Arbor Jack guy was sent down at one point.
Also, not just a wake up call, but for your self confidence.
Yeah. If he exactly like if
If
he
he
goes
scores
down,
like 3 goals, I mean, then
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I'm good. I'm not that bad.
sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
all you
happened
need.
with Caulfield. It
Exactly.
was a scoring machine. They called
Yeah.
him up. They called him back.
And that was done. We know the rest from there. But
Yeah.
I mean, Laval's a really good team. He wouldn't be, there on an island. He wouldn't even be on the first line in Laval. I mean, you can't break up Dauphin, Belzile, and Farrell. Those three have been money together.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. But again, I wouldn't be against it, and I don't think it'd be a demotion either. It'd be more of a go find your confidence. Go find your confidence.
Yeah.
And we'll see you back very soon. I'm not too worried about Zach Bolduc. He'll figure it out in no time. Snake, another player I want to talk to you about,
Yes.
and this is the prospect that I was mentioning off the top of the show here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Unsung, under the radar.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
many people talking about him, but more people should. So that's why we're going to do it. 16 points in 20 games with Providence this season. We're talking about Logan Sawyer, third-round pick of the Montreal Canadiens in 2024. He's second in points on his team behind Roger McQueen and tied with John Mustard, another guy I know you are very fond of.
A sleeper. Yeah.
How much time do you think until he turns pro? I'm not talking about the NHL here. I'm talking about Laval. Could he make it next year?
Okay. The thing with Logan Sawyer is that he's 19 years old.
Mhm.
So when you look at NCAA players at age 19, although it's a higher caliber of play because the players are older, they are still the same age as the 19-year-old junior players, like Bryce Pickford, for instance, who are going to be eligible to play in the AHL next year. The standard age for a junior player to start his pro career is 20.
Yep.
So if Logan Sawyer was playing for Medicine Hat or London or Chicoutimi, he'd be in the American Hockey League last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the NCAA, the guy can stay 4 years. After 4 years, can become a free agent, or he can stay 3 years and basically just hone his skills and then decide I'm not ready yet, and I want to see another year in school, and then you start your career at 21, which is also often the case with non-superstars.
Yeah.
Okay, the Will Smith or Celebrini or Gabriel Perreault or even a guy like James Higgins this year. Higgins, second season, he's going to turn pro next with Boston. Now, Logan Sawyer might go back to Providence. What are the pros and cons? Logan Sawyer is not a high-end offensive player, but he has some skills, and I see him as an ideal bottom six player in the NHL. Why? Because bottom skills player in the NHL don't score necessarily that many points. But don't forget that in order to be a bottom six guy in the NHL, you still have to have skills.
Exactly. Reliable. Yeah.
You have, because very often I see third liners in junior hockey, and fans or draft analysts will see, oh, this is the third liner in the NHL. Look, if you're a third liner in junior hockey, I don't think you're going to be a third liner in the NHL. You have to be like a first liner in junior hockey to become a third liner in the NHL, because these guys are good. I mean, that's the PGA Tour slogan. but these guys are good, and very often, we poo-poo on fourth liners. He's bad. He does it. Look, they're NHL players.
Exactly.
So they were at some point the best player on their respective teams.
Correct.
So getting back to Logan Sawyer, right now in Providence, he's scoring a little bit more than he did last year. I saw him live last year. I was really impressed as a freshman what he was doing, because he plays a complete game. He has some skills. He's a good skater. He works hard, and I see the ideal bottom six player in the NHL. This is a guy you want to have, the type of guy that you're looking for on your roster.
Yep.
And if you have him in your system, you don't have to sign him on July 1st. Okay, you already have him. It's a cheap contract, $1 million bucks. Now the question is, could he play in Laval next year? The answer to me is yes.
Yeah.
just like any junior player can play in Laval next year. Providence now. The reason why I wouldn't stay at Providence if I were him, and I suspect he might stay, but I have no inside information on this. I'm just trying to follow the pattern of players like him who usually will stay for a third year. Problem with Providence is that it's not a great development school for prospects. Roger McQueen went there. What was he thinking? Because really, the guy didn't play last year in junior hockey because of an injury. He needed to play this year. And Providence plays very, very, they don't play a wide open game. They don't develop offensive prospects very much. So I'm not sure if it's the best scenario for Logan Sawyer to stay at Providence. Could he transfer? Look, I doubt it. If I'm Kent Hughes, I'm offering him a contract, and I'm really, really pushing for him to get to Laval next year, get a bottom six role in Laval in his first season, get his feet wet, maybe at 21, get a top six role in Laval. Mm-hmm. And if he performs well, then be in Montreal at age 22. That would be the ideal development pattern for him. Look, he's a fourth round pick, I think. He's a long shot, obviously. So we are talking long shots, but I find that there are long shots there are better long shots than others. And I think for him, his skill set being what it is, because right now, look, sometimes we're talking about LG Mooney. Yeah. LG Mooney is a much more talented player than Logan Sawyer.
So much fun.
But where does he fit? Whereas Logan Sawyer, there's always going to be room for these guys. It's very, very hard to break into the top six of an NHL team. It's very hard. But third and fourth liners, there's churn, and you want cheap contracts. You want guys who work hard. I think Logan Sawyer has a chance.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I mean, you can never have too many of those. The Habs are rounding out their top six quite well. So they're going to need bottom six players.
Yeah.
Logan Sawyer.
Yeah, because Henderson, Gallagher, their contracts are going to be expiring. They're going to need some new blood. Yes, you can sign these guys on July 1st. I always say they're easy to find. But look, if you have him in your system, why not?
Steady, reliable. Yeah. That's what you want out of a bottom six player. Yeah. Logan Sawyer, credit to him. Not many people talking about him. But we are, of course, because we trust the process. Folks, before we move on, I think it's a perfect opportunity for me to tell you all about our great partners here at the Sick Podcast. And I want to start off by thanking our friends over at Cheapest T-Shirts. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They're proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every day. You'll always get the cheapest prices, plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery. So your order arrives fast. Enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And a big shout out, of course, to our friends at Betway. Don't select a bust with Betway and get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. If you scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account, you can redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. With that, I think it's time to go dig it in the mailbag. Our question today comes from Pascal. Again, asking some great questions. Says, thank you for answering the question I had raised in a previous episode about the big three in comparison to Hudson, Dobson, and Matheson. Perhaps one day we'll be able to make that comparison again. In the meantime, Snake mentioned that other teams currently have a big three superior to the Canadiens. Which teams are we talking about? This is a very loaded question, and Pascal, loaded. Get ready because we got a loaded answer for you. Okay?
Yeah, it's quite loaded because for older viewers and hockey history lovers, the big three that the Habs have in the 70s is the standard.
It's the
Larry Robinson, Guy Lapointe, Serge Savard, because Savard was more like more of a defensive player, although he had some offensive skills. Guy Lapointe was a very offensive defenseman, although he was good defensively.
Yeah.
And Larry Robinson was like a 1970s version of, let's say, a guy like Victor Hedman.
Yeah.
Big, a workhorse. He had points. He hit hard.
The ideal defenseman.
It was the ideal defenseman.
Yeah.
I think a guy like Larry Robinson, with modern equipment and everything.
Oh, wow.
And I think he could play in the NHL today. That's the type of guy who would translate well to today's hockey. Now, ever since then, we've always used the expression "big three." And some teams have come very close to getting this because they had like an defenseman, a defensive defenseman. But you think of the Edmonton Oilers in the 80s, they had Paul Coffey, they had Kevin Lowe, but who was the third one? So it's not easy to answer that question, because nowadays, I think what's more important is the group of defensemen that you have. Your top three defensemen might be very good, but if your number 4 to number 6 suck, well, there's at least, a good 15 minutes during the game that you're going to be in trouble. So look at the Florida Panthers. Is the Florida Panthers big three better than the Habs big three? It's hard to tell, but their group of defensemen that won the cup in the last couple of years was better.
Yeah.
Forsling, is he really a number one? It depends on your definition of number one. Is Ekblad a number one? Not really, but all put together, these guys.
That's it.
They had Brenton Montour.
It's a unit.
They had Brenton Montour.
Seth Jones last
year. Montour the year before.
Yeah.
Right now, if you look at some big threes in the NHL, Dallas.
Yes.
Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, and Thomas Harley. I think this is superior to the Habs big three.
Correct.
Because Heiskanen is really an elite two-way defenseman, all-around defenseman. Harley is a great defensive player. Lindell is a good defensive player. So I think that's an example of a team that would be superior. But if you look at the Colorado Avalanche, and that's where the comparison is a little bit harder to make.
Yeah.
Makar is all-world. Devin Taves is probably the best number 2 defenseman in the league, I would say. Anyway, at least close to being the best number 2 defenseman. But who's number 3? They have Malinsky. They have Sam Girard. They have old man Brent Burns. Yeah. Still good.
Josh Manson.
Tough guy. So who's the third? So, but overall, would I take Colorado's defense score before the Habs score? Yes. But is their number 3 better than the Habs number 3?
That's it.
Not necessarily.
It's loaded. We
so
warned
that's why. Look at Buffalo.
Yeah, that's it.
Young group. They have Dahlin, Byram, and then who's number 3? Is it Owen Power or is it Sam Wilson?
That's it.
Sam Wilson is very, very good defensively.
Having a good year.
Power, he's a two-way guy, but I see holes in his game. Dahlin, I think, is one of the top defensemen in the league. Although maybe not as good as some people thought he would be when he was drafted, because he was seen as the McDavid of defensemen. So you see, Detroit, they have Moritz Seider. They have Simon Edvinsson. So
who's the third guy?
Yeah, who's the third guy?
Is it Sandin Pellikka? Is it
Ben
Sherratt? Is it Albert Johansson?
Yeah,
is it Jacob Bernard Dockers?
And how do you compare? Because with the Habs, first of all, you have guys in 3 different age groups.
Yeah.
Like Dobson is really mature at 25. Hudson is very young at 21. And Matheson is 31 years old.
Yep.
But if you, but with some, same thing with Dallas. Lindell is a little bit older and Harley is a bit younger. So what is the definition of a big 3 really? I think it's three guys that pretty much complement each other and are at the top of their game vis-a-vis, let's say, other number 1s, other number 2, other number 3. So that's why I say Devin Taves is probably the best, or if one of the best number 2 defensemen in the league.
Yeah, but he is a number 2. Like,
he is a number 2.
He is a number 2.
Exactly. He's a
But
number 2
in his role.
Okay, could he be
yeah.
could he be a number 1 on a very weak team? Yeah, but it wouldn't be ideal to have Devin Taves as your number 1.
He's the ideal complement.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I don't know if we answered the question well. I know that our Pascal, listener wanted like which big threes are better. I think it's a little bit more complex than just saying this because again with the Habs and Pascal chose Dobson, Hudson, Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about Goulet?
Yeah.
When he's healthy. Okay, I know he's not a Habs yet, but what about Reinbacher eventually?
When he comes around, exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, Reinbacher then takes Madison's place on the big 3? Maybe.
I would assume.
If he were healthy, would Pascal have said Madison or Goulet?
Yeah.
Maybe he would have said Goulet.
I guess maybe in terms of like time on ice, those are the 3 leaders every game. So I guess that's
in the present
in
moment.
his definition,
Yeah.
The big 3, which makes sense. But it's that's not how teams are built anymore, right? They're building defensive cores, not just 3 guys and then the other 3, they're just there. It's defensive cores, and your point to the Florida Panthers is perfect because they're the 2-time Stanley Cup champs. They had defensive cores. All 6 guys could hurt you. All 6 guys had roles. They were good at that. We're talking about Nico Mikola, guys like that, right? It's defensive cores. So the big 3 argument, I think, it's applicable to maybe a handful of teams.
A handful of teams.
But really, that's not what makes a good defense anymore in the NHL.
No, because like I said, your big 3 can be very good, but if your 4, 5, 6 is American Hockey League caliber, you're in trouble when the big 3 is not on the ice. The Habs at the time, older viewers would argue, well, they had Rick Chartra as a number 6, who was basically AHL caliber. Yeah, that's true. But you know what? The 1970s and the 2020s are 2 different eras. I mean, today you cannot have a hole in your lineup because other teams you get exposed right away. Whereas in the 1970s, you could have a so-so player playing 10 minutes a game because the team's other 4th line was really not good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a good 4th line can really take advantage of a bad 4th line.
Yep.
Or a bottom pairing defenseman.
Precisely.
So, look, I think it's a very interesting topic. And, but that's pretty much the best answer we can give.
Yep. And if Pascal wants to chime in, we'd love to get your take.
Yeah.
And everyone else's take as well. If you have a big 3 in mind that you say right now, oh boy.
Better than the Habs, yeah.
That is the gold standard. Let us know. That's what the chat section is for. And it's also for asking us questions for the mailbag. We get to at least one every single show. If you'd like your question answered, you know what to do. Snake, that's it. About wrap it up for today, but we've got a fun show in store for Thursday, okay? A little preview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens' opponent tonight, the Vancouver Canucks, who are entering a rebuild. How are they entering it? What do they need to do? We're going to discuss all of that on Thursday. We're also going to have a little exercise comparing Hockey Canada and Sweden hockey.
Yeah.
Is Sweden on the rise? Canada on the fall?
I got this idea from Tony last week, doing the French show with him.
Tony and his friend. Thank you for the idea. We'll roll with that. So that'll be a fun exercise. What else do we have planned? We got some
I
good
wrote
stuff
it down.
planned on
We're
Thursday.
going to talk prospects also. I have other prospects to talk about.
A little 2026 draft, maybe a little
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Point is, it's going to be a fun show. And we highly recommend you tune in. And thank you to everyone who does, everyone who's subscribed, everyone who's turned on the notification bell. We appreciate your support, your viewership, your commitment to this show. That's why we're committed to you as well. We're here every Monday, every Thursday, without exception, except when it's the holidays, of course. But it's not. So we're back full time. We're back on Thursday. Simon, anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, we're here until probably after free agency.
There we go.
July 1st, something like that. So a good 6 months of us every twice a week.
And it's going to ramp up here as the season dwindles and the draft approaches.
And trade deadline.
Yeah.
Trade deadline, lots of picks usually traded and prospects on trade deadline.
We're going to be busy, but we're going to work for you to provide you with the best content. So that'll do it for us. I'm producer Shayne. Thank you to Simon the Snake Boivin and to producer Jimmy at Master Control. This has been another edition of the SIG Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Thursday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the SIG Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.